Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon. I'm gonna keep this episode tight like Sean Kemp's Kraken shirt perna. Just kidding, the NFL decided to get interesting right when I thought I could relax for a weekend. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Gardner Minshew's silent protest against the toilet, Michael Thomas out for several months, Devante Adams ends his contract talks, the NFL goes hard on the vaccine policy, and tomorrow is D-Day for Packers fans. I won't even BS you with a bunch of dumb jokes to start this episode. Let's just jump into this shit. That's good sports. Hey, subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's something people do. You can support this channel by checking out my coffee, BenchwarmerBrew.com. I sell very good coffee. Small batch, craft roasted, ethically sourced. Check it out. I also partnered with Urinating Tree and 5 Points Vids. They've got their own blends on the website if you want to check it out. Also, Big Dick Patreon shoutouts for new Patreon donors. Adam, Gross, Aiden, Dunaway, Carson, Neff, DC Lauway, John Swan, and KC Tyler. Thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon, patreon.com/thatsgoodsports. That's how I pay the bills. That's how I keep the lights on here. And for all the new $20 donors, you'll be eligible for the Fantasy League that I will be dropping info for on Patreon. The draft will be end of August, early September, so keep an eye out. Gardner Minshew. He hasn't shat in 2 weeks because number 2, not an option for him. This was Gardner Minshew on Chris Long's podcast, which is produced by my friends over at Blue Wire.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, man. In preparation for the competition, I haven't taken a shit in weeks. Number 2 is an option for me. Number 2 is not an option. I'll tell you that.
Shout out to the 800 of you who tagged me in that on Twitter.
Number 2 is not an option. I'll tell you that.
I ain't putting Paul Pierce. I didn't put Paul Pierce. I was cramping.
Yes, Gardnerius Minchuvius, who doesn't give a number 2 if Commodus Trevorius Laurentius was taken by the gods, number 1 overall. He's still battling for that starting job. Now, I can tell you right now, short of injury, my beloved Gardner is going to lose this battle. He's been stabbed in the ribs with the poison blade before the fight has even begun. It doesn't matter how well he plays in camp. You're not going to beat out the first overall draft pick. But like Russell Crowe and Gladiator, he will go down with honor, and he shall be rewarded in quarterback Valhalla. Where will that be? Well, if I'm Urban Meyer, my only reason for caging the bird that is Gardner Minshew would be to maximize his trade value by waiting for a starting quarterback to get hurt. Probably why a purchase order of 31 voodoo dolls showed up on Urban's credit card statement last month, per sources. Also, newsflash, if you're the Saints, Minshew is an upgrade immediately. No injury necessary. I don't know who is going to start at quarterback for them come September, but whoever it is, they better be ready to check down to Alvin Kamara every other play. That's because the Saints' number 1 pass catcher, Michael Thomas, is a no-go to start the season. Thomas is undergoing surgery to repair ligaments in his ankle, according to Ian Rapoport. Now, I'm not sure why his doctors advised him to wait for surgery until a week before training camp, but I have my suspicions. Oh, I've got my suspicions. Now, this is the same ankle injury that caused the 2-time All-Pro to miss 9 games last year and ultimately failed to catch a touchdown in 2020. A year earlier, in 2019, Thomas put together one of the most, let's say, prolific seasons of all time in 2019, catching a record 149 passes for over 1,700 yards in the year of Slant Man. Now, Thomas gets a lot of shit for running a lot of slant routes, but if I were Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, I would love to know that I've got an easy 7 yards waiting for me every time Thomas goes over the middle. While Thomas is out, the Saints are going to have to rely on... Oh fuck, this is bad. Traquan Smith, who had 34 receptions last year. Marquez Callaway, 21 receptions. Deontay Harris, 20 receptions. Juwan Johnson, 4 receptions. And of course, the Hall of Fame name, Lil Jordan Humphrey, who has all of 3 receptions in his short career. I think for short, I'm gonna call him Lil Hump, which I'm pretty sure is Jordi El Nino's production company. Now the Saints should probably have addressed the wide receiver position, but they did make a splash by signing former Jets cornerback Brian Poole. Poole has played mostly slot corner and was in a really tough spot with the Jets last year with really no help around him in the secondary, and little to no pass rush. He should have a much better situation in NOLA with Marshawn Lattimore and Patrick Robinson at corner and a defensive line that can heat up the QB. Poole will help them out, but the Saints still lost a lot of good talent on this defense during the offseason, including Janoris Jenkins, who joined the Titans in free agency. Based on the wide receivers I listed earlier, I would not be surprised to see them reach out to someone like Golden Tate, or hell, maybe even Des Bryant, who was a Saint for about 5 minutes back in 2018 before he tore his Achilles in practice. Oh wait, they're working out Chris Hogan today? Okay. On to Wisconsin. Oh, Wisconsin, welcome to the wide range of human emotions. You just experienced pure ecstasy when the Bucs reversed an 0-2 deficit and hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy last week. Now you're extremely hungover, waking up to watch your Super Bowl caliber Packers disintegrate before your very eyes. We're bracing for a Rodgers departure, either now or later. That was all to be expected, but his number one target could be on the way out too, now that Devante Adams and the Packers have broken off talks about a possible extension. Devante Adams is not going to hold out though, like Aaron Rodgers may or may not do. I do expect Adams to show up this year, but it sounds like this year is going to be his last year in Green Bay. And I think as soon as Adams learned his Madden rating was officially a 99, he realized the Packers were trying to stiff him financially. And just moments ago, Ian Rapoport gave the worst report I could imagine. And that's that Aaron Rodgers does intend to show up to Packers training camp. Fuck! You are listening to my dreams die in real time. So Rodgers, going back to the Packers, I still think he leaves after this season, but maybe the last dance Instagram post with Devante Adams was their way of saying they're gonna give it one last try before they depart. Fuck! 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 Looks like I gotta do 2 videos today. Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is officially holding in. Not the same kind of holding in that Lamar Jackson had to do in Monday Night Football, but in the Lynchian sense of showing up in order to merely avoid the financial ramifications. According to Ian Rapoport, Watson showed up to Texans camp on Sunday along with the other quarterbacks on the roster, including the one they signed to replace him, Tyrod Taylor, and the one they drafted to replace him, Davis Mills. Of course, none of this changes the fact that Watson is still looking at 22 lawsuits from women alleging various forms of sexual misconduct. We've gone over that for months, just like we've covered the fact that he wanted and still does want to trade out of Houston, like everyone on that team should. But he's showing up to camp because the alternative is paying $50,000 every day in fines. every single day if he doesn't report. And unlike Rodgers, Deshaun Watson wants and possibly needs that money, probably for when it comes time to settle those 22 lawsuits and to keep paying his current legal defense team. In the meantime, though, there's another big development. The Texans are officially listening to trade offers for Watson, setting the asking price at 5 high draft picks and starting caliber players, according to Chris Mortensen. So the Texans are trying to force interested parties into giving up way more than they want to. Well, at least we know now where Watson learned it from. There's 2 ways to look at this, though. The Texans have inside info that the legal situation is soon to be resolved, or they're totally out of their fucking minds. Or a third, they have inside info knowing this will not end well for Watson, and the only way to fix their image is to fleece another organization the way their organization has been fleeced over and over and over again. No one in their right mind, though, is giving away multiple firsts for a guy who makes Robert Kraft look like a saint. But I'm going to paraphrase what James Palmer said on NFL Network. Houston police have been investigating Watson for 4 months and haven't found anything to charge him with, and the same for the NFL. I'm not saying that makes the allegations any less serious or that the situation is over, but it might mean Watson could skirt the commissioner's exempt list in 2021, given that civil suits typically take a long time to resolve, and there's been no wrongdoing found on a criminal level so far. It's similar to what happened to Antonio Brown last season. Remember, Brown was suspended for a whole bunch of shit that had nothing to do with his civil suits, and then that got settled, and he got to win a Super Bowl with no repercussions. And I do find it funny that the Texans, who signed about 50 free agents this offseason, are still seeking starting caliber players in a trade. It means even they know they leased a bunch of underwhelming talent. Most recently, wide receiver Anthony Miller. Anthony, my condolences. Apparently, the Eagles and the Dolphins are the 2 teams that could pull the trigger for Watson in terms of being ripe with draft capital, and the Dolphins could send starting caliber players in Tua and disgruntled corner Xavier Howard. Howard has had trade rumors swirling around him for weeks, but I've been assuming the Dolphins will figure out how to make him happy. The Watson trade may happen today or very soon. His quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, predicted Watson would be traded by yesterday. So maybe Quincy's not a great source to be on Adam Schefter's podcast because he was wrong.
Anticipate that Deshaun gets traded before Sunday.
Before this Sunday?
And for all of the conspiracy theorists out there who think the Texans organization organized the 22 lawsuits against Deshaun Watson, I say to you this. The Texans, as an organization, can't organize 22 players to win on the fucking football field. I doubt they have the foresight, the power to convince 22 women to jeopardize their reputations for a frivolous lawsuit. Also, if they're willing to trade Watson now, then what was the point? It hurts his trade value. He's leaving anyway, so the only reason to do that would be to convince him to stay to show that you could ruin his life. So I just don't think that's an actual possibility. Regardless, this might be a huge fucking week for NFL news. Watson could be moved. Rodgers either shows up tomorrow for Packers training camp or doesn't. Someone important will probably suffer an injury at training camp, and Tom Brady's social media team will win an Oscar for best visual effects. I mean, can you believe how young they made him look in that clip? Now, we learned something we kind of already knew, which is that the NFL is going to punish the hell out of teams if they're not fully vaccinated and they get COVID. So if it's impossible to reschedule a game, teams will have to forfeit. So it's basically close to the same rules the NFL had last year, but since there's a vaccine now, the NFL can use the vaccine to not pay teams if a forfeit has to happen, which I don't think will, because 0 teams forfeited last year. The NFL either accommodated teams, like they did for the Ravens, or other teams they made play without a fucking quarterback. So essentially, it's the same rules as last year. The difference is, the NFL could let a guy like Deshaun Watson play, which means the NFL will have harsher punishments for players and teams who refuse to vaccinate than guys who may have committed sexual assault. And that's how I know the NFL is back, baby. That's the NFL I know. The 49ers have locked up one of the key young members of their defense. You know, the one not named Nick Bosa. San Francisco inked 24-year-old linebacker Fred Warner to a 5-year, $95 million deal that includes $40.5 million in guarantees. Basically, he's the highest paid non-pass rushing linebacker in the NFL. I'm sure that will change though as soon as the Bucs are ready to extend Devin White or the Colts extend Darius Leonard. But until then, congrats to Fred Warner, who started off as a simple 3rd-round pick out of Brigham Young. He's really, really good though, and if you don't believe me, here's what Aaron Rodgers had to say to him.
I'm happy for you, man.
I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it, for real.
Unfortunately, name recognition means too much. Ain't nobody better.
Appreciate it, bro,
It really
for
is.
real.
You're the best.
I appreciate that, for real, dude.
Everybody knows
That means a
Don't
lot.
lie.
That means a lot, bro, for real.
Should be all pro.
Thanks, bro.
And when Aaron Rodgers likes a player, the Packers usually cut or trade that guy. Luckily, Warner plays somewhere else. Otherwise, he'd be fucking gone. Here's what disturbs me about Fred Warner, though. Look at his Wikipedia. His real name? No, not Frederick. It's Federico Anthony Warner. I can't comprehend being blessed with the name Federico and not using it. It's a waste of the name Federico. I will have to take it upon myself to rectify this. Last season, Federico had 125 tackles and 2 interceptions on his way to his first All-Pro season. So whatever you want to call him, San Francisco locked up a crucial part of their defense. One of the best coverage backers in the league, Federico, aka the Freako, and as long as those guys stay healthy, they too can lose to Tampa Bay in the playoffs. Playoffs. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Long News Monday episode. Holy cow. Again, benchwarmerbrew.com if you want to taste my beans. I'm on Twitter @BrandonPerna and Instagram @BrandonPerna. Or you can click and watch another video on the screen. I don't give a cuckoo boo boo.